Hey guys, how's it going? So I have a recommendation list for you today. 10 horror movies you can watch when you're feeling PMSy, sick, down on yourself, if you want to throw yourself a pity party, whatever. This is for you. The first one, actually this is the movie that prompted me wanting to make this list, is American Psycho 2. I'm looking over here because I have the list from 2002. So what's crazy is that when I was looking at different movies to get to put this list together, and I saw that the average rating for American Psycho 2 on Letterboxd is 1.9. 1.9 out of 5, which is crazy because I loved this movie so much. Granted, the first one and the second one, though the storyline is coherent, the vibe and the atmosphere of the movie is on two different planets. The first one is about that's Christian Bale. What's his name? Whatever his name. I can't remember off the top of my head. Serial killer and his serial killings. Now, in the first one, there is a baby that survives, and so the second one's main character is that baby as a young adult, and she is off to college, and as you can imagine, she's a little messed up in the head from almost being murdered by a serial killer, as one would be. And so this movie is very much like a college movie, or like college teenager movie. It almost feels like Legally Blonde, but make it horror. The music in this movie is really fun. The storyline is very simple. It's fun, it's lighthearted. There's honestly a lot of these movies on the list, there's nothing much to them. Like, they're not works of art or anything. They're really just movies for when you just need a movie night to chill, okay? It's Legally Blonde, or any kind, or it's like kind of like Scream in that regard, where you follow, or you're in that like high school, college kind of vibe, and it's just young adults having fun, killing each other. So that is my first recommendation and the inspiration for this video. The second movie I want to recommend for this list is going to be You're Next, and that is from 2011. This is it's interesting because when I look back on Letterboxd, I saw that I only rated it 3 out of 5, and I genuinely thought I liked it more. I guess not. So the family goes to this lodge and they are celebrating a union when all of a sudden there is a home invasion, and it is a fairly violent, well, I don't think it's the most violent horror movie I've seen, but it's up there. It's home invasion. You never really know what's going on. It's just people chasing people in the dark, in the middle of nowhere. It's fun. There's nothing to think about in terms of plot lines or whatever. It's just simple. It's a good movie for when you have like that internal rage that you want to just throw on someone else. Next up, I want to recommend Pearl from 2022. This one, I will say, was a really beautiful movie. Actually, this movie to me teeters on the line of very artistic and kind of trashy. But it's super fun. Essentially, you follow this girl who grows up on a farm, and so she's living on this farm with her mother while her husband is deployed for World War One. And her dream in life is to be a performer, a dancer. And so it's her story of her trying to pursue that dream. And in terms of that kind of storyline, I have never seen this kind of movie treated the way it is. I don't want to give any spoilers because it is super cool. The twists and turns that this takes is demented. And I feel like this kind of channels our inner dementedness for when we are cramping. This is like her psychoness. The main character in this movie kind of, like I said, it teeters the line of artistic and trashy, but the character teeters the line between sanity and insanity. And I feel like she's like the mood swing version of when I'm PMSing. Okay, like I'm just gonna put it there. Next, okay, so this is not even one recommendation. This is like a 3-part recommendation, and that is the Fear Street series from Netflix. Were they produced by Netflix or just I think they were produced by Netflix. All of them take place at different years. And this is so good. This is so good. This is like the Scooby-Doo of horror movies. I don't know how to explain it. It's campy. I think that's the one thing that all these movies on this list have in common. They're all pretty campy, okay? Horror, like the horror version of campy. And I feel like campy is exactly what you need when you're PMSing or sick or whatever. And if you're feeling sorry enough for yourself, you can binge all 3 in a row. That would be a great pizza movie night. Because you know when you're PMSing, calories don't count, right? At least they don't for me. So I know if I was going to watch all 3 movies of the Fear Street movies, I would have a pizza, I'd have dessert, and a beer or something. Fear Street is amazing. That has that nostalgic feeling. It has amazing music, and it has the ghost stories. It has the slasher elements to it we all need. It's like an elegant storyline made, campy is a bit repetitive, but an elegant storyline made kind of teen trashy horror movie-esque. The lighting, I think, is beautiful. Just, I cannot say enough good things about the Fear Street series. I want to recommend The Cabin in the Woods. This is a pretty obvious one. I feel like Cabin in the Woods, okay, 2011. Cabin in the Woods is one of those movies, honestly, you could watch at any time. I really like horror movies that blend different subgenres. So in this case, there's like a sci-fi elements to it. There's a incredibly ambiguous ending. Well, incredibly, I don't know, but ambiguous certainly. There's slasher, there's I don't know. I don't know if you was there a home invasion? No, it's not a home invasion. I forget exactly like how things pan out. But anyway, I just think stuck in the middle of the nowhere when something bad happens to you is for some reason calming for when you're PMSing. At least to me it is. I'm not sure why. Sleepy Hollow. Okay, so Sleepy Hollow, I mean the 1999 version with Johnny Depp. There are multiple remakes of this. This is a classic. I haven't read the book either. I forget who wrote it exactly. John Irvine? Anyway, this is a super fun one too because I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm PMSing, I just feel extremely gross. And I feel like the Johnny Depp version of Sleepy Hollow almost has an elegance to it that makes me feel beautiful. That was exaggerated, but not that much in the end. Sleepy Hollow is based off of the urban legend of the Headless Horseman, where another super underrated movie that deserves more attention is, in my opinion, is The Hills Have Eyes from 1977. This again is a pretty campy movie. This one's really interesting. Actually, Ed Gein, the serial killer who inspired Norman Bates from Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm pretty sure I read that he also inspired The Hills Have Eyes. College kids are coming home from a road trip and their van breaks down in the middle of nowhere. And I mean nowhere. They're like in Utah or some New Mexico or some state like that. And they fall prey, to a family of cannibals who live in the hills. This is vintage, one of the best vintage horror movies that I really think is super underrated, to be honest, and I actually really want to rewatch it now that I think about it. Next up, we have Tales from the Hood from 1995. This one is super fun because when you're feeling down and crappy, there's nothing better than, at least in my opinion, stories I enjoy reading or listening to podcasts like Storytime podcasts or videos on YouTube, and I think this is the horror movie equivalent. I know this is the horror movie equivalent to that. Essentially, there are these three friends, I think, who are in a morgue, and the mortician tells them stories from the hood. And so, if I'm remembering correctly, in this movie, there are 3 stories total. And so, it's very much like the three friends are there. The mortician is like, all right, let me tell you these stories. And so he starts telling it, and then it kind of like, as movies go, it comes to life as he's talking, right? As he's narrating. But yeah, it's just, story times are really comforting like that. And again, it's 95, but it has a vintage movie vibe. I'm not going to say vintage when referring to the 90s because I'm too old to do that. Tales from the Hood is just one of those movies that you could watch over and over again and never get tired of. And it's just like, if horror movies gave you a hug and tucked you in bed and were like, here, let me tell you a story while you fall asleep because you feel terrible. Second to last, we have The Car, and we're taking it back to 1977, visibly a good year for horror movies, but you know. Now you might be thinking of Christine by Stephen King, but actually that movie, and I think the book also was written after The Car came out, and though the storyline appears similar, Christine is much more action detectiveness-ish, while The Car is really just horror. Let's be for real, it's just white people getting murdered by a haunted, possessed car. But it's super fun. It's just so much fun. This is one where you can really kick back and just like throw a blanket, throw a pillow on your tummy if you feel like it. Feel sorry for yourself and watch a car just kill people, okay? Like, that's the vibe, and that's a good vibe. Now, if that's your thing, by the way, my last recommendation, I've talked about this multiple times, especially during Garb August, but the Piranha franchise, the newer ones, like from what, 2010-ish? Piranha is like, if your vibe, okay, when you are feeling super crampy and super gross and like everyone is attacking you, first of all, I get it. Secondly, pretend like every single piranha is every single one of your cramp and just like watch them go. I think there is a 70s version to Piranha, but I don't think I think I've seen it, but don't remember it off the top of my head. So that was my list. I'm sorry I couldn't quite define why specifically these horror movies are good for when you're PMSing, but you know what? If you know, you know, and if you don't know, then good for you. Good for you, and I hope you don't have to know because let me know which movies you like to watch when you're feeling crabby, crampy, sick, or whatever. I'd love to add new media, movies, or videos, whatever, to my list. Like the video if you did, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!